Let's first of all start with the profit numbers. They look on the surface very, very exciting to see such a huge leap after, of course, the losses which you saw recently. But analysts will point to the fact that from an operating profit perspective, your bank seems to still be struggling, maybe about 2.5 billion operating loss in the first quarter. Last year was a lot more for the full year. And obviously the numbers are being boosted right now by the write-backs that we're seeing as a result of what you're recovering from provisions made in the past. What can we read into this? Is this a reflection of the bank's challenges short-term, or is it just because of the focus on recapitalizing for now?
Thank you, Wole. I think if you recall, the first time I came here, we did say that where Oceanic Bank was at the time of intervention, it would probably take about 2 years to break even. It was so severely damaged. Now we have done all these things. NPLs are down to 32 billion from about 700 billion. Cost of funds is down. Expenses are down about a third on a monthly basis. We've done a lot to clean out the balance sheet and the profit and loss account. We are approaching break even. We're not there yet. We didn't promise that we'd break even within a year, so we're well on course to break even. What we're focusing on now that we've cleaned up the balance sheet and a lot of the P&L, we're trying to make the bank leaner and fitter. As we make the bank more efficient, we will see a boost on the margin line. And we're now trying to build up the loan book.
Right.
You know, our loan deposit ratios used to be north of 150%. Now we're at about 46%. So we now have capacity to build up the loan book again. So as we build up the loan book, raise the revenue base of the bank, and continue to rationalize the bank's operations, margins will improve, definitely.
And of course, key to building up the loan book going forward will be capital.
Definitely.
And recently, we've heard, of course, that the First Bank was interested and was in talks with Oceanic Bank. We've heard that those talks have broken down. Can we get your perspective on where we go from here, and perhaps what were the issues with that discussion?
I think the central bank governor actually answered this question for us last week, because the reality is, yes, both parties were in talks, but the talks broke down because we could not agree on consideration. Our view of what consideration was significantly different from what First Bank's was, so we disagreed on consideration, not because we disagreed on the synergies or the intrinsic value of coming together. Now we're exploring other options. There is no mad rush to do a transaction. There are other options which we believe will take the bank to safe harbor max in another 18 months.
When you say other options, other options in terms of investment partner, new investors, or options in terms of how you manage the bank?
We have already received expressions of interest
so you will be
from other parties.
That.
So we're considering credible expressions of interest alongside other options.
And how is Oceanic positioning itself, more so in the context of the new bank licensing regime in Nigeria? Many are expecting that Oceanic will be a national commercial bank. Would that be the case? Yes,
we'll be going for a national commercial bank on a standalone basis.
And the implication of that for your foreign subsidiaries?
Would be that we would have to exit from them. We've already done one exit. We had 3 foreign subsidiaries. We've already done one exit. We're in the middle of a second one. And a third one, which is bigger than the other 2, we believe in the next maybe a year. I mean, as you know, the deadline for complying is May next year. So there's about a year from now to comply with that.
Let's talk about your deposits. We see that it's down about 8% in the first quarter. Can we talk a bit about how the challenges in that regard over the last 3 months?
Okay, unfortunately and fortunately, the story behind the drop in deposits didn't have to do with anything we did wrong business-wise. It had to do with a number of challenges we faced in January of this year. One where some unions had gone to national television to say they were going to picket some banks and shut them down. We were one of them. And another where a series of malicious texts were being circulated about the bank. And those 2 factors led to, we lost about 70 billion in deposits in January, but I'm glad to report that we have gained about a half of that already. As we speak, Our savings had dropped by about 15 billion at the height of that episode. And we built all that back and more. I think today we're one of 5 banks in Nigeria with savings in excess of 100 billion. We're actually north of 105 billion. We're very proud of our deposit story because we lost those deposits. Some were deposits we labored for years to build, and being able to recoup them, even in the face of the apparent challenges that the bank faces in terms of being under intervention, I think is a fantastic story to tell.
So all in all, back on track.
Back on track. We're proud of our deposit story, yeah.